Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday here on Birds 365, your daily deep dive into the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm Zander, Krause, your host. That's my co-host, John McMullen, the number one beat reporter in town covering this football team. We're here to give you all the insights and the updates you need for the game this weekend. Birds taking on the Bengals. Eagles sitting at 4-2. Cincinnati Bengals sitting at 3-4. A Week 8 matchup, a rare matchup, John. We don't play the Bengals very much. How you doing on this Friday morning, Johnny Mac?
A little bit of technical difficulty Friday, but we're up and running. So a little bit late. I apologize for that. But yeah, I mean, we know the Eagles' history in Cincinnati, but I don't think it matters. Every time Nick Sirianni gets asked about this, he correctly states, like, what the hell does that have to do with, insert name?
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley, who's never been, it doesn't mean anything. So,
well, it doesn't mean anything for the team, I agree. But remember, this is a spectacle, right? It's a sport. There's storylines, there's TV, so it goes in for that. But I agree with Nick. It shouldn't affect his team.
Yeah, it shouldn't. This group is obviously, and there's so much turnover in the NFL now. When you start talking about division and you play the team 2 times a year and you get the trends, Eagles dominate someone or someone dominates the Eagles. If you want to go back to the 70s and so forth, yeah, that's real. But when you don't see somebody, once every 4 years and once every 8 years in Cincinnati, it's really not that relevant as far as that. But, yeah, good team. As I said, I think no matter what happens in this game, I think you'll be able to take some thoughts from it at least and take some stock in where the team might be, whereas I haven't seen that much this season, to be honest, because of circumstance, the field in Brazil, the injuries, the situation with the opponents, and specifically with the Giants. I mean, you haven't been. There's not a lot of meat on the bone to take it and move it forward and say, all right, this is the way it's going to be. And I think maybe you'll get some clearer thoughts on that after this game, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, which is why I think this is a big game here. I mean, you brought up the defense there. I think they're the probably the number one thing right now that has shown signs, which is a good sign for the overall team and what they're going to be able to do maybe in the playoff picture or something like that. I mean, I think the defense has been pleasantly surprising the last couple of weeks, but you got to factor in the opponents and the context, and that's where I think we're going to learn a lot about this team this week, because you're going up against Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Now, they don't have the greatest offensive line, but I think it's going to be a good test this week, John, for the defense. And you talk about learning.
You never know what NFL teams. You go to last night and everybody's like, well, the Rams' offensive line is terrible, and the Vikings create all this pressure. And then you get any pressure all night. It's like
all the pressure
sometimes you can't explain this league. And that's because of the parity. And, the Rams get 2 of their best players back, and all of a sudden they look like a good team again. So, and the Vikings lose, Blake Cashman. They're not the same team. And most people don't even know who Blake Cashman is. And that's how, one player can make a difference from one side. A couple players can make a difference from another side. It's really, this league is razor close, man. I don't think a lot of fans get how close it really is.
Yeah, what'd you think of that game last night? I think that Vikings kind of showed a little bit who they are. But that Rams team, John, I think people wrote them off too soon. When they have everybody healthy, they're formidable. Matthew Stafford still looks really damn good.
Yeah,
he's in the pocket, man.
He's got great arm talent. And when you allow him to have time to manipulate the back end, you saw the result.
Yep.
I mean, he just looks one way, manipulates the safeties over the top, and then goes back the other direction. It seems so simple, but it's not, because A, you have to have the patience to do it. B, you have to have the pass protection to do it. And they've struggled with pass protection. Maybe it's a short week. People point out correctly when teams play the Lions, they get beat up and they tend to play really poorly the next week.
Yeah.
And the Vikings had that. Plus, it was a short week. Plus, they had to travel and go out to Los Angeles, which isn't as difficult for them as a East Coast team, but it's still difficult, especially on a short week. So, but yeah, that was a strange game. I mean, they got literally no pressure. I think I saw it up 38 dropbacks, 3 pressures, like disastrous. And yeah, you're going to lose that game every time to Matthew Stafford if you're not speeding them up. Same thing with Joe Burrow. Like if the Eagles get 3 pressures, which believe me, they're not going to get 3 pressures. That's a disastrous performance.
Yeah.
But if they get 3, they have no chance. They have literally no chance. If you tell me that going into the game,
I mean, he's going to be on his spot all day, just picking the defense apart.
So that's kind of what happened in that game. And yeah, it's tough to explain. Sometimes it's tough to explain, but I know everyone went off on the officials. I mean, come on.
Well, I saw your take, and it's so funny because I thought about you last night when I watched that, and I'm like, okay, egregious call. Yes.
Yeah,
awful call. Yeah.
Terrible.
Do we think Sam Darnold was about to go 95 yards? I didn't. Now maybe
and they lost their best. They lost Christian Darrisaw, who's one of the best left tackles in the
And Kirk, credit to Kirk Herbstreit. He talked about it coming out in that last drive, and then boom, that guy got beat. I forget who the backup's name was, but he said, "Watch out for him."
That was actually the left guard who got beat, but
was it? I thought it was the tackle that got beat.
No, it was their left guard, but either way, I mean, the funny part from and by the way, we can have the official discussion because it's an embarrassing miss, but it's such an easy fix too because you just adopt a college, and they look at it and they say, "Well, we got to stop this." Right? Call it, and then they lose the game the regular way, and everybody's happy. Yeah. But they won't do it, and why won't they do it? Because nobody turns it off. They all watch it. So I mean, blame yourself.
It does feel like
no incentive. There's no incentive for the NFL to change. And ironically, by the way, the Rams have been advocating to make roughing the passer reviewable for years, and it always gets turned down. But to me, all this nonsense, Zander, just adopt a college. Everything's reviewable.
Right.
If you miss something, you got a sky judge and he fixes it.
It seems like a poor deployment of resources when you have multi-million dollars worth of cameras and things. It's like, okay, if the call is that egregious, then I agree with you.
Just fix it.
Just review it. Fix the damn thing. I mean, I don't know. I think they don't want to take the subjectivity away from the refs.
I can't even have this argument. The league is so backward because they didn't come up with the idea. They don't want to use it. That's bottom end. That's it.
Right.
And they got a shitty product on top of it, and their officials got to go out there and do, well, we didn't see it. There's 70,000 people there. However many millions watching on TV. Everybody saw it except the 3 idiots it's right in front of their face. It makes the league look terrible. It makes the officials look terrible. Then you got the gambling crowd. I guess the over-under was 49, which I don't even know.
I didn't know either.
And they're saying, oh, they wanted to, they didn't want Minnesota to go down and kick a field goal. Guess what? They're not kicking a field goal. They're down 8 points. They're going to go for it on 4th down. So those people are goofballs. But yeah, I mean, but it's always when you lose a game like that. I will say this, and this doesn't matter to Minnesota because they're not going to fire their coach or their coaching staff or anything like that. And they weren't supposed to be a contender. Everybody just got over their skis with them because they're 5-0, but we're 5-0. Where I do think there's a problem is you will have late in the season, you will have like people losing their jobs because of poor officiating. And I think that's where the league really misses the point. Like coaches will be fired. And when coaches are fired, support staff is fired. Right. There's a whole their secretaries getting fired.
The domino effect of that,
Yeah,
right?
because of this, issue. And it's such an easy fix. It is such an easy fix. Sky Judge, whatever you want to call it. Make up your own name. If somebody's sitting in New York, somebody knows that immediately because of the plays they can review. Somebody can talk and say, "Hey guys, you missed a really bad face mask. 15-yard penalty. Keep it going. Bang. Keep playing."
Yeah, it's simple.
It's so freaking simple, and they refuse to do it. And people bring up the Rams. You don't need to make it reviewable. Everything's reviewable. You just do it like college.
Yeah, it's interesting why they don't do that. But anyway, Bengals take their or not Bengals. The Vikings take their second loss last night. They moved to 5-2, and the Rams are, I think, what did they move to? Were they three and four? Yeah,
Now remember, the Rams started 3-6 last year. Maybe
I know that. I'm telling you, man. If they get
they're
going,
tough and Puka out there, they're tough to deal.
yeah, they're tough. And Kimberly puts in a super chat. Kimberly, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. We're gonna get all super chats today. We got an open show, and we'll be talking Cosell. We'll be talking Hurts. We'll be talking Eagles, Bengals. We'll do it all here today on Birds 365. Kimberly says Stafford can still sling it. I'll take the Stafford McVay special in a heartbeat. In my opinion, McVay is a much better play caller than Shanahan. Johnny Mac, I know you're a big Shanahan guy. Do you think McVay's better than Shanahan?
No, but I get it why she's saying that today. I mean, it looked great last night.
Yeah, it sure did.
But they've also looked really bad in other games this season without their players. And again, I think for whatever reason, I can't get into what went on in Brian Flores' head, and I like Brian as well defensively, but I mean, he didn't come off what he was doing, and it was pretty clear he came into the game thinking, all right, the Rams have a bad offensive line, so I'm going to use these simple blitz package, and it wasn't getting home, and he never came off it. So it works both ways. But Sean's very good. He's the whole league. He's 38 years old, and he's got a coaching tree as big as anybody but Andy Reid. So, he's very good. But I think overall, when you look at his, and he calls it, and by the way, Sean McVay is very honest about this, and he uses the term illusion of complexity. And he's very eye candy-ish coach as far as he's basically betting on the defense being undisciplined. And when they are, it looks like it was last night. When they're not, when they're disciplined, doesn't look as good.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. Kimberly, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate your support of the channel. One of our great viewers here, Kimberly Sirica. Thank you, Kimberly. We appreciate that. All right, Johnny Mac, we're going to preview this game, and we got a whole show to do it. But before I go there, John, yesterday at the end of the show, for those who were watching yesterday, all to the end, I mentioned a comment from Greg Cosell on Ross Tucker's podcast. Little did I know it would take fire, and everybody all over the city would be talking about Greg Cosell's comments. Let me first ask you, what are your takeaways on Greg Cosell's comments, and how much stuff?
First of all, he's been saying it for a while.
I know.
And I guess because it was on Ross's podcast, it became more national. So I guess that's why I picked up speed. He's been saying it for a while, though. Yeah, he's right. I mean, I think he's a little bit too harsh, but he's right. I mean, I talk about the time to throw next gen stats thing all the time. I mentioned it yesterday. I mean, he's got 1 year where he's down to 2.78 seconds, and it happens to be the Super Bowl year. Every other year he's up at 3 seconds. It's not as good. I think if you want to boil it down to one stat, that's the biggest problem. And it's not about the stat. It's about what the stat means. It means he's not seeing the field. He's not trusting what he sees. He's not playing in rhythm a lot. And and it gets slower, and he's not making concrete, declarative decisions quickly enough, and you have this choppy offense. And people want to blame it on the coaches, and go back to last night. Like, people want to give Sean McVay credit because it was a good game. People want to criticize Brian Flores because it's a bad game. Hey, the Vikings players sucked. That's pretty much defensively. They couldn't get off a block in the run game or the pass game. There's not a coach in the world that can do anything about that. If you're going to play that way on a particular game day, and so people want to blame Nick. They want to blame Brian Johnson. They want to give Shane Steichen credit. And now they want to, whomever they want to blame this year. It's more Nick than Kellen, I would say. Kellen's got still a little bit of a honeymoon period. But the offense looks exactly the same. Exactly the same. And that's why people default, well, it's Nick's offense. But it isn't. It isn't. And I wish they could know that. If some people are going to not believe it, that's fine. I mean, Kellen's game planning, Kellen's calling the plays, and it looks the same because the quarterback is deficient in some areas. And they can't evolve it at this point, or they haven't been able to evolve it to the degree they want to evolve it to this point. Doesn't mean it can't turn around. Doesn't mean you can't figure out some things. Doesn't mean you're not going to play better. They almost have to play better, I think, from a passing game perspective because of the talent they have. And he'll have good games like all players. Sometimes you got your A game, sometimes you don't. But I think it's going to continue to be a little bit inconsistent, and that's kind of disappointing at this stage of the development, to be honest.
Do you think they should be taking a different approach on that development? I mean, here's where I'll give Jalen some leeway. It's a new offense. He talked about it in the offseason.
It's not a new offense. It's 90. The terminology.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, and you know how deep terminology goes in the NFL. I mean, it could throw you off enough to not start your fastest in a year with a new coordinator. I'll give him some leeway there. Is the way they're approaching it right now the best way for him to acclimate himself to this offense? Like, and we talk about the run game, and I get it. I think I know you're right. Where you're not going to win a Super Bowl just ground and pound all day. But is that better if your end goal is to be the prolific passing game, but you do it in a way that allows Jalen to have building blocks to get there through the first 10, 12, 14 weeks of the season, rely on the run, rely on your weapons a little bit more, let him acclimate, let him learn the offense and keep adding on to that. And by week 14, 15, 16, you got to be a better passing team. Would that be a better approach, or is that pie in the sky?
I think that's that. They showed against the Giants, and they showed really throughout the first 2 years of Jalen Hurts as a starter that, and really since Nick has been here, to be honest, they will do what they need to do to win a game. And I think the coaching staff is hyper focused on that, and they're not worried about the long-term picture. That's more of Howie's role. They're worried about beating the Bengals this weekend. And the off season is for all that stuff. And so I don't think it's about scaling back. They'll scale back if they need to scale back to win a game, as they did last week.
Yeah.
They could have they could have rolled out the footballs and won last week. They could have thrown it 35
I get
times.
it, but don't you also think too, John? I mean, coaching staff wants to win games, but in a way, Nick Sirianni's tied to Jalen Hurts. Like, if Jalen Hurts doesn't improve this year,
Yeah, but he knows he's tied to winning. So if he wins games, people we'll talk about it, and Greg Cosell will talk about it, and everybody will talk about it. But if he wins, he's fine.
that's fair.
So that's his mindset. But long term, yeah, I mean, they want to get to a certain, and it's, if you're talking about that stuff at this stage, like I said, it's not a good sign. And if people want that, it's not a good sign. Um, and then you can't get out, let's be honest, of the contract at this stage.
No.
But you should already be thinking about the next step if you're Howie Roseman. I mean, if that's the organizational belief, and I don't believe it is, but
You're
if
speculating that. I know you don't know this to be true, but you're speculating you don't think that they're there?
no, I don't
I
think
don't
they're
know.
there.
I'm starting to wonder where
And if
Howie
they
is.
are there, they're already thinking about the next stage, the
Well,
next
let me
step.
ask you this then. Was Jalen Hurts' contract an extension? Was that an owner move or was that a Howie Roseman move?
Oh, that was an organization. Everybody was on board with that. I mean, I don't think. I mean, there's if anybody thinks anybody wasn't on board with that, that's revisionist history. I mean, there was no reason at that particular point to think that Jalen Hurts didn't deserve that contract.
I mean, it was an early payday, though. You got to admit that.
Yeah, but that's how they do business. That's why now it doesn't
Well, yeah,
look
but
near.
okay. Then let's point out the deficiencies of the way they do business, right? I mean, if you went to the table that early because you wanted to jump ahead of the market, that's fine. But now you're locked into Jalen Hurts before you potentially saw how he was going to progress as a quarterback.
Um, yeah, I don't see it like that because unfortunately, even you talk about the regression from 22 to 23. He's still getting that money because that's the cost of doing business at that position. Uh, and that's you see what the Giants are stuck with, not quite with Daniel Jones. I mean, when you misevaluate, yeah, you're screwed. Um, to a certain extent, the Eagles have proven screwed is not really screwed because you can reboot the NFL and get right back on track. So I think a lot of times that's a little bit overrated, but um, yeah, I think that's revisionist history. Anybody claiming that you
That's
could have
fine.
waited because you're paying you're just paying more. You're paying more for a lesser player at the time. It never goes down. Even for a quarter. I mean, remember, he still played well last season. He's still getting the money.
All right, you
And
said the
and
offense was choppy, and you think what do you think that is? Then you think Jalen's just not getting through his reads, like where when you watch it, and I know you have an objective take where
yeah,
you
he's
don't
not making
you
he's
don't
not
care
making
one way or the other whether Hurts succeeds or Hurts doesn't. You're covering it either way, right? So I get that. From your perspective, I'm sure you start to look at things from a broader perspective at times and say, okay, where could this go? You know, does this look like it's the start to the end of Jalen Hurts to you?
I'm not there yet. You know, I it's part of their jobs, the Orlovskis of the world, the Greg Cosell's of the world, and not as much Greg because but the guys you hear um on TV making these grandiose proclamations each week, they know they're full of shit. They know. I mean, think about how everybody was talking about Flores and his defense. I was talking
Yeah.
about Flores up 2 weeks ago. They know what's
Yeah,
coming.
but in this case, are they full of shit?
Um, what with the declarative statements after 5?
Well,
Yeah,
just with
yeah.
what they're
That's
seeing
what I'm
from Jalen
talking about.
Hurts.
That's what I don't mean full of shit from. I mean, they know you can't make that proclamation now, but they have to keep people engaged. Unfortunately, that's part of the game.
Right. So they're
Um,
but the level of which they said it maybe is full of shit, but is the fine print show that they're on to something that could be a bigger problem for the
there's
team?
yeah, the people should be concerned. I think that's fair. I think that's very fair because, like I said, when you're talking about scaling back on a $255 million quarterback at this stage of his career, when he was a starter in 21, 22, 23, and now 24, that is terrible sign. That is a terrible sign. And I don't think the Eagles are at that point. So I don't think they're at the point of a lot of people who want that. But if they get to that point, like I said, you might as well start planning for the future now. It doesn't mean you can get there, but you better start planning and thinking about quarterbacks and because this team is sort of at that point they're stuck in a little bit of a purgatory because you're going to be too good to get near the top of the draft, and then you have to do some Howie magic and go from 13 to 10, whatever he did, in 2, and on, and try to get in that position to get, and then you got to evaluate correctly. Because, you might get CJ Stroud or Jaden Dent, or you might get Bryce Young. So you got to value and you got to develop. And we've been through this before. Boy, this league is tough. We all thought Carson Wentz was a superstar. And why not? Why shouldn't you? He was a superstar
Yeah, he
for a
was.
very short period. He was a hell of a lot better than Jared Goff. And there will be books written on the decline of Carson Wentz because it's such a weird trajectory. Injuries, personal personal difficulty in dealing with adversity for whatever reason. I mean, this league's coming for you, and you got to be mentally tough. And Jalen seems to be mentally tough. So
He seems to be mentally tough, but is the talent there to do what the Eagles want to do as an offense? And that's be a prolific passing offense. I mean, John, he has everything around him to have that. Right? So like if we're not there now, okay, maybe it's the new system with Kellen Moore or the new terminology, or it's because he's now doing all the pre-snap reading and getting the team into the right play call at the line of scrimmage. Maybe it's that. At what point do you have the conversation of this guy's not giving us the offense that really we built? I mean, how we talked about it the other day with our guest. I mean, this team is built to be a prolific passing team. It's built that you're supposed to be able to say, I like the Eagles in any shootout.
yeah.
You
And
can't say that right now.
No, I agree with that whole because, the whole goal was, you could win like they did against the Giants, or you could win a 38-35 game or whatever against anybody. And I don't, like this weekend, I wouldn't like them if that turns into a shootout. And I could also see them scoring 38 points. I mean, that's the problem. The lack of consistency is the problem. They're capable of it. He's capable of it. We've seen him do it. There are games where he has really hummed passing the football. And then there are games where it just looks ugly. And the
wasn't when he did it, wasn't that a different scaled back version of the offense?
Well, it depends on the game. I mean, they scaled back the offense in 2021. They started like, all right, we're going to give them the whole thing, and they started 2-5, and then they scaled back. And they had so much success with that, they continued it through the Super Bowl season. But you also saw there were games in the Super Bowl season where he really was effective throwing the football, including the Super Bowl.
Yeah, very effective.
Where if he, if he got a little bit of help and his own unforced error hurt, but he outplayed Patrick Mahomes on the Super Bowl.
Oh,
he did.
He didn't.
He did. Jody might be arguing with me somewhere, but he did.
I'm arguing with you now. You can, John. You don't outplay someone. You fumbled and had a 10-point swing to the best offense, the best team in the league. You can't do that in a Super Bowl. I'm sorry.
What are you talking about? Him? He did he give up the punt return? Did he blow the coverage?
He gave up the fumble.
And No, what? And that was in the first half. I mean,
I
there was
know, but it
plenty.
was still a
How
massive.
how about when they were down and all hope was lost, and he went right down the field in freaking so
Hey, he had
quickly
a
I could barely
fantastic
look
Super
up
Bowl.
from my seats
He
on
had
the
a
biggest
fantastic Super
stage
Bowl. I'm not ready to
and
say
the
yeah.
biggest drive. He was the best player on the field in the Super Bowl. He was the best player on the field in the Super Bowl. What was the score at? 38-35?
34-31, I think it was.
Whatever the hell it was. It was an egregious defensive game. Which both Eagles Super Bowls were, to be honest, but they won one and they lost the other one. But yeah, I mean,
38-35. Yeah, good call by you. 38-35.
but yeah, I mean, to say he didn't play well in that game,
Oh, I
yeah,
didn't say he didn't play well. I don't think he outplayed Mahomes, but I hear you.
But the things that Patrick does well, like they won the game on corn dog. Andy Reid's famous corn dog now, famous now. They won the game when they didn't line up correctly. And on the field, Patrick Mahomes made the adjustment and just ran it in the other direction because the guys were lined up incorrectly. Made the adjustment on the field, won the football game. I think now, can he do that? Fuck no. But just from a pure standpoint of what he was able to do in that game, yeah, he was unbelievable. But the consistency from week to week is not there, and that's disappointing. Not to say you're always going to have that level of game.
Yeah, but it's got to be better than what it is.
Yeah, but the floor's got to be risen significantly.
I mean, I'll give you another example though of why that's not cutting it. Nick Foles was an elite quarterback for 2 games.
Yep.
That doesn't
Yes,
mean
he
you
was.
pay him a contract and make him your franchise quarterback.
No.
Jalen Hurts was elite on that Super Bowl run.
Although
Yes.
a lot of Eagles fans would argue with you, but of course not. Yeah, Nick Foles is not. Yeah,
No, I mean,
Nick
he was
Foles
a career
is.
journeyman backup. I mean, look, I love Nick Foles. He brought us our first and only Super Bowl. So I love him. You know, you're going to have a hard time getting me to have a bad word to say about him. But I can acknowledge that he was tremendous for that Super Bowl run. So was Jalen Hurts. And now Jalen Hurts has been.
Yeah, but Jalen Hurts is significantly better than Nick Foles.
Oh, I know that. But I'm saying in the last year and a half, he's been pedestrian. Has he regressed, John, since he signed the contract?
Yes. Yes, I would say so. And that's the adjustment that teams look, they can't run as many RPOs for a number of reasons. But mainly because defenses adjust it and play it better. So they don't run it as much. RPR is the same thing. And they have to evolve this thing. And that's why Kellen Moore is here. And all of a sudden it's devolving, which is not positive. They threw for 114 yards against the New York Giants.
Yeah. 89 of them to
Like,
Jalen.
I know this town. I know everybody's fired up. That's a fucking disaster. Like, it's counterintuitive, but it's a disaster.
And that's why you've had people breaking down, not just Cosell, even Fran Duffy said Jalen Hurts did not have a good game versus the Giants.
No.
I mean, he was, what was he, 10 of 14? I'm like, really? How could he have had that bad of a game? But, you go and watch the tape. There was a lot there that he missed. He took 4 sacks and 18 dropbacks. So,
yeah. Oh, early in the game, I mean, like he was feeling pressure that wasn't even there.
Yeah, which could have been a product of the offensive line being missing. He was seeing ghost a little bit, the pressure that wasn't even there.
Well, exactly. But that's, he can't be doing that. He can't be doing it. All right. Sam Darnold wasn't great last night when Christian Darrisaw left, but he wasn't falling down.
Yeah. No, I get it.
He took sacks and he took bad sacks and he's running around like a moron, 14 yards, but He's not falling in the pocket before the pressure arrived. So yeah, that was a problem. The decision making again, before his best throw, which was the AJ throw, which was perfect, and that's what makes it so frustrating because he can make those throws. The third down was just ridiculous. I mean, first down, they're giving you the first down, and you don't take it. For what reason? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. They knew they'd fix it. But
All
right
right, the one other
now
part.
he's an above average quarterback. Right now
Jalen?
he's an above average quarterback in the NFL. And
I would say he's average right now.
and he doesn't belong in the conversation. Like there was one commenter yesterday saying Joe Burrow's not. He doesn't even belong in the same sentence as Joe Burrow.
Well, that we agree on for sure.
And something he kind of flashed earlier this week. He didn't want any Joe Burrow comparisons. Nor should he. Because if you put that spotlight on him, it doesn't look good. Yeah. And at one point we're talking about is he definitely a top 10 quarterback? Is he an elite quarterback? Well, now we're not talking. He's not an elite.
You think Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback?
No, right now, no.
I was going to say
at his height, yes.
Oh, at his height, he was top 6, 7. I mean, Super Bowl
I
year.
always had him like 8-ish to 12-ish.
Okay,
I said
Super Bowl year he played above that, but what he is as a player could be lower. I get what you're saying.
I always said in good years he'll be bottom of the top 10, bad years probably, out of the top 10, 12, 13, 14, somewhere in that range. That's where I think he is. And that's disappointing, to be honest. And he's played poorly this season for the most part. But there's always splashes. The positive, I say it all the time, the relentlessness, even when he plays poorly, he might make a play. Again, Chauncey, it didn't matter because it wasn't a close game, but he's playing poorly. Then bang, perfect pass, AJ touchdown. It's weird. You usually don't see that. Quarterbacks are playing poorly. They usually play poorly. But he's so up and down. Jekyll on Hyde. And what defines the great quarterbacks is the consistency from week to week.
All right, we're talking about getting from average to elite, which I understand that's where you want your quarterback to be. But the comment made yesterday, and I'm going to get to all super chats before we get out of this segment because I know they're all about this topic. So I'll read them all in just a second. Thank you guys, everybody in the chat. Appreciate each and every one of you in the chat. Hit that like button if you're enjoying the show. We got to get those likes up on Birds 365. Appreciate everybody. The comment that was made yesterday, though, John, the specific part that I want to ask you about, which we've talked about, but your quarterback just can't execute basic concepts. That's what Greg Cosell said. Now, you don't have to like Greg Cosell. I get it. Some people were out there slandering Greg because he made a bad comment about Jalen Hurts. I don't think Greg Cosell has any bias. I think it's what he's seeing on the tape. John, isn't that a little bit more alarming than talking about getting from average to great or average to above average?
Oh, yeah.
You're talking about basic concepts.
Well,
that's what Greg said. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's what was said.
Well, that's what I was talking about when I talked about from the day after the game. The third down play before the fourth down touchdown, nobody cares about it. That's a fucking problem.
Right.
That's a problem. And that's a bigger problem from a coaching perspective than the touchdown is from a positive perspective. Because if that continues, you got big problems. And it's hard for, people to wrap their head around that. It was really bad. And that's the kind of stuff Greg was talking about. simple concepts, things like that. Throw the ball. You see it, it's there. Throw the ball.
Does he see it? I don't know if he sees it.
I don't know how he can't not
I mean,
see it.
Devontae Smith you could almost reach out and hand the ball to
I
Devontae
don't know
Smith.
how he cannot
And he's
see it.
waving his arms
It's
like he's
progression.
lost at sea. He's right here. He's like, Jalen, I'm right here. Right
It's
in front
part
of him.
It's part of the progression. I don't know how he cannot see it. You know, a lot of times fans are unfair when they see somebody on the other side of the field. Oh, he's
Yeah,
wide
right.
open.
Right.
Like he's an
If
out.
you're
Like I always
progressing
say.
from over here, you're not going to
Yeah.
see that. Right. That
No.
makes sense.
Like I always say, quarterbacks aren't owls. They can't just turn it. The progression is designed to go a certain way. And if somebody on the other, that's why he's wide open, because the defense knows the progression's going a different way, and they cheat over because they know the football. Now, very rare in today's game that people can get back through 4 progressions. I don't even know if it exists anymore, to be honest. So even more so, you see that cheating because quarterbacks are not going to come off that far. The best you're going to get, you saw last night, a guy like Matthew Stafford. It's the best you're going to get as far as progression. And it gets sometimes it gets to 3.
That touchdown throw late in the game. I mean, you could see it on camera. Him going through the progressions. And talk about going from left to right. He was over, boom, boom, boom. Then he got to the 3rd or 4th progression or whatever. I think it was the 3rd, and touchdown. Boom.
Yeah. And there's probably 5 guys in the league that can do that. That's it. Maybe, man, there's some older guys, probably 10, I'd say, and that's it. Derek Carr can do it. Burrow can do it. Purdy probably. Patrick can do it. Aaron obviously can do it. Cousins can do it. That might be it. No,
Baker's showing some signs this year. I'll tell you that.
Get better, but I wouldn't go with that. That's probably it. Stafford, I mentioned.
Stafford for sure. That's a no-brainer.
That's probably it. That's probably it. Even the other, like the elite quarterbacks, to me are Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. Even them, they're more. Patrick's so unique. I put him in a different category. He's like I've always compared. He's like the Steph Curry of the NBA. He changes the game because he does shit you're not supposed to do. No look passes, all bound. The mechanics are not great from a traditional quarterback mindset. So you look at him and you go, you shouldn't be doing that, but he does it. It's like I always say, if you're a youth basketball coach and somebody goes out and watches Steph Curry and they want to replicate Steph Curry, you're can't stand the kid. You can't play that kid.
Running up the field and running up the court, jacking triples.
Can't play that. You can't play that kid. So he's unique. But the game has changed. So, now you sort of view it through the modern lens, and I think he's fine from the modern perspective if you pull the trigger on time. But he's not doing that right now.
No, he's not. Let's get to a couple super chats. Before I do that, I want to tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. We'll not take a break here. BetUS, everybody. Look at the promo code on your screen. YouTube 150. That gives you 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and then you get 125% on your second and third deposits, all up to $2,000. So go check out BetUS. Big thanks to them for sponsoring this 2-hour edition of Birds 365. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and they'll even give you your own custom account manager. So go and get those Saquon props in. It's going to be another Saquon week, I think. Hopefully, we're giving away a jersey here on JAKIB Sports next week. Go check out BetUS, everybody. That's betus.com.pa.
Who won the jersey this week?
Spa City won the jersey, Johnny Mac, and he claimed his jersey. I ordered it up, and I actually got the shipping email yesterday that the jersey
Nice.
has been sent out to Spa. So I was good. It's good because you know after the week 3 or week 4, whatever the second jersey I gave away was, uh, most of them were sold out. Luckily, the guy that won needed I think it was a larger an XL, and they had it in stock. And I'm like, oh great! And they restocked them all those. So now there's Spa City. There's our winner. Jersey's
Yeah.
on the way, my man. Let's get to a couple of these super chats. And Spa, you can confirm for Daz that you are not my cousin or my nephew or anybody related to me. Everybody's making the conspiracies here.
Everybody's
That,
got a conspiracy.
that I have
Everybody's.
colluded. I have not colluded.
That's what last night the NFL wanted to keep it under. That's the conspiracy. So, or whatever. I
Yeah, I'm
don't
not a
know
betting
what the
man, so I
conspiracy.
don't get
Yeah.
into those ones. But
But go to Bet US and bet.
look at Spa.
Bet
He
the
says,
US.
LOL, I'm black. Yeah, and I'm white as it gets, Spa. So I know we're not related, brother, but I appreciate you for supporting the channel, and I'm happy you got the W on the jersey, my man. Let's go to our super chats, John, on this Jalen Hurts topic, okay? And I'm sure we're going to have some tough ones in here. Brian Pumper checks in. I don't think we should mortgage our assets to add to a team whose franchise QB is Cordell Stewart. We have a Fugazi QB, and we won't go far, Brian says. Brian, thanks for the $5. Johnny Max chuckling at your super.
Now Brian's gone too far. Cordell Stewart.
Brian's
They've
been
already
with them for a while.
they've already went far with Jalen Hurts. I got news for you. They actually played in the Super Bowl. I don't know if that's an accomplishment. So yeah, I think you've gone too far with that comparison, Brian. Sorry.
Good
Yeah.
stuff there. Let's go to the
It's
next
a
one.
little bit better than Cordell Stewart.
Joe Johnson checks in. Joe, appreciate you, man. Thank you for the $5 super chat. All super chats go to the top. We appreciate everybody. The support of the channel does go a long way. Joe says, is the quarterback struggles because of the constant change in offensive coordinators?
No. By the way, if you're watching last night's game, there's another example. Nobody's lost more coordinators than Sean McVay. Nobody. It's like ridiculous. 4 offensive, 4 defensive, because they keep getting jobs.
I know.
It's the modern NFL. You deal with it. You're going to lose. Howie talked about this. You got frustrated a little bit about it. In the spring. If you're bad, you lose coaches because you got to fire them. If you're good, you lose coaches because you lose them. And it's only getting worse. So it's only continuing. And if you look at, I know everybody goes, the magic second year with Shane Steichen. All right. He went from whomever, I forget who the last Alabama play caller was, to Lincoln Riley, and he was runner up for the Heisman, and he was winning games left and right at Alabama because Alabama's Alabama. From Lane Kiffin to everybody else. He's had tremendous success. That's a crutch. That's the NFL.
Yeah, but doesn't that a little bit what you just said about McVay? Doesn't it highlight a little bit of the problem with the setup in Philadelphia? Because I don't think it's what they wanted Nick to be. And you talk about McVay, well, that's McVay's offense, right? I mean, it's like Kyle losing a coordinator, or it's like Andy losing a coordinator. I mean, they lost Eric Bieniemy. Nothing happened. Nothing changed. Nothing. And the Eagles
but see, here's the difference.
And I think that's what they wanted, though, right, John?
People are so hyper focused on Sean McVay calls the plays. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. They were talking about it last night. He let Kevin O'Connell call plays at times.
Yeah, but it is his offense.
It is his offense. Now that I disagree. As long as they're and that was the situation here before this season.
Right.
It was Nick's offense. And Nick just decided to have somebody else call the plays. It was his offense until this season. That, and I've talked about since day one, I don't agree with. Either you let the head coach be the head coach, and now the Eagles would argue they did. They didn't take it away from Nick, but that's bullshit. Even if it wasn't overt, he was political enough to realize what was coming. And they made the change. So that's different. But Andy's giving off play calling at times. Nobody knows. Nobody knows it. Nobody even knows unless he lets them in on it.
Yeah. I told you I watched that quarterback show, John, and I don't know. I mean, look, I know it's very produced and stuff, so I don't take. But there's a moment there where Andy just like he lets the players go out and like he gives them a concept of a play,
Yeah.
and he
Oh,
lets them
Kelsey
like
does
create
whatever
their
the freak he
own.
wants.
He lets them
Kelsey,
create their own offense
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
And I'm like, boy, that would never happen in Philly. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think it would. I don't know if we have those type of players.
Coaches are very important. I think they're more important than in the NFL than any other professional sport, at least major professional sport by a large degree. But man, it is still the players.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
is Kelsey and Mahomes do shit on, you know, it's like improv. It's like Second City. They're not running plays. They're like, go out to the car at the end of the driveway type of thing. Um, yeah, and they talk about it all the time. And Andy's, obviously at this stage of his career, has got a lot more rope um, in his history. But throughout his history, he would let guys call plays in certain situations. And if he lets you in on it, you know it. If he doesn't let you in on it, you don't know it. Doug was the same way. People had no idea um, Rich Scangarella and Press Taylor were calling specific situations. They had no freaking idea until they were told. The same thing. Shane Steichen took over play calling before we knew Shane Steichen took over play calling.
Yeah.
Um, so anybody who tells you that is lying to you.
Joe, thanks for the super. Let's keep rolling, Johnny Mac. Brian checks in again. Uh-oh. Finally, J Mac is seeing the light. These Hertz 316 dudes have ruined my fan base. The guy is a tomato can. We need a real NFL caliber.
I just said he's not Cordell Stewart.
No, he
Yeah.
said this. He sent this before you responded to the first one.
He needs to play better, but he's not the worst quarterback in the world.
He's not a tomato can. Come on,
No.
Brian. He's not a tomato can. Jay Perfect says, Kellen and Brian offense caters to Jalen and what he likes. Big play. Shane's offense catered to the team as a whole. That's why it looks different. John, your response to that?
Shane's offense was not Shane's offense. Number one, that was Nick's offense. Sorry to let everyone in on that, but that was scaled back from 2021 when they got in here, and yeah, they put too much on his plate, scaled it back. Relied more on the offensive line. The running game had so much success. They continued that pretty much through last season. And, that was part of the issue. Jalen felt frustration about wanting to evolve a little bit more, autonomy, all that kind of stuff. And right now, that's probably not working out too well. Maybe they should scale it back from that perspective, but I don't know if you can scale it back from that perspective. But the Eagles in the Nick Sirianni era, really any era, I mean, it's common sense, but I think people don't really, when they talk about identity, like AJ was talking about it, you can almost see the eyes roll, like when they have to talk about that kind of stuff.
Right.
Same thing with Nick in motion. You can see the eyes roll. You do what you have to do on a particular to win the freaking game. Like, Shane would say it all the time, and with off the record, obviously, because Shane on the record was just, he was worse than Kellen, but off the record, he was phenomenal. And there were
Is Kellen good off the record?
Never had an off the record with him. So
Oh man, so he's one of he keeps himself away from you guys.
yeah. So but in Shane's, and it would be punctuated by 1,000 Fs. Nobody can throw an F bomb out there like Shane Steichen.
Speaking of the F bomb, John, real quick, not to cut you off. Somebody made a comment yesterday on our afternoon show. They said, Has John been Zanderized? Because I've never heard him drop so many F bombs in my life. John, am I having a bad impact on the language that you're putting out on the show?
Yeah, I drop the F bombs like Shane. Sometimes when, and again, you got to be careful because I'm on the radio as well.
I know, man. I'm like, I better tone it down. I better tone the F bombs down.
But no, I would say Shane F bomb me. I would say he's responsible. But
right,
it would be great. Anyway, it would be great listening to him because he would say, like a Green Bay game, he's like, "All right, you're gonna fucking keep. You're gonna stay in this. I'm gonna keep fucking running it."
Yeah, right.
I mean, that is. And I always bring up how Mummy in the XFL. I think people don't realize it's like, and how would, because they were mic'd up and he said, run it again. They were just rolling. And they're like, most coaches from mediocre on up are just going to take advantage of what you can't do. But the problem with the modern NFL that the run the football crowd doesn't get is the margin of error thing. Like the minute you get behind, you're basically, here, get ready, guys. You're basically fucked. So you have to play a certain style of football. You have to get the lead. And obviously the Eagles haven't been great in the first quarter. Now, against the New York Giants, it didn't matter because it was, again, punt, 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 punt. So they were so inept, it didn't matter. Like if you try that this week, you're probably going to be down 10-0, 13-0, 14-0. And then you're fucked.
I love it, boy. I said that comment. We've had like 3 or 4 bombs since then. Jason, thank you, man. And by the way, Jay, thank you for the $5, brother. We appreciate that. Jason checks in with a $5 super chat. Jason 18, thank you, my friend. He says, Hurts has the capability to be top 10. He's in a new offense yet again. I think it has a lot to do with it besides his terrible pocket presence. A little contradictory there.
I think the terrible pocket. He's not in a new offense. It's the problem that people have with Kellen Moore is he's a good offensive coordinator, and by that I mean he's not going to bring his offense or what you think is his offense and say, "All right, Jalen Hurts, you're going to run this because I ran this with Dak Prescott or I ran this with Justin Herbert." He's going to look at the quarterback he has and build the offense around the quarterback. And that's why it looks so similar because he's building around what Jalen does well. So this, the terminology's new, which is, I'm not downplaying it, but he's been through this before.
Right.
He's actually happier because of the autonomy than he's ever been. So there should be no excuses. But there's a group that want to, it's always somewhere in the middle, but you got a group who want to call him Cordell Stewart. You got a group who want to make every excuse in the world for him. And it usually starts with, the offense, the different play caller. Well, welcome to the NFL. And he's already been through it 100 times.
Right.
And if he stays as the starter, he's going to go through it a heck of a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing with the Jalen Hurts conversation, because, somebody commented the other day, and they're like, you guys are talking about Hurts so much right now. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, but it's really the number one thing right now. It always is. But, like, specifically right now, the defense is showing signs. All the offensive talent is around us. Like, we go as far as Jalen takes us. If Jalen plays like he has the first 6 games, there's not a chance in hell we get back to a Super Bowl. If he gets better and improves and gets back to 22 form or closer to it, we could be talking about a good team late in the year. Will we? I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. One comment I want to read before I get to the next couple super chats. I like this a lot. Where is it? Kevin Savard. He says, is it a fuck it Friday instead of a football Friday? I like that, Kevin Savard. Appreciate it, brother. A couple more supers. Dream Green says, J-Mac, Baker or Hurts?
I still would take Jalen.
That'd be a tough one for me.
Well, I think you're going to see. I mean, remember the NFL. That's the thing. I mean, look, Minnesota's 5-0. Now they're 5-2. They lose their left tackle. They look absolutely screwed. One player, two players, really. If you look at Blake Cashman, who's really good, that people don't know. That's how quickly things turn.
Yeah, and you saw that with Baker last week. I mean, he lost. Now he's at down both his receivers. He's gonna
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't have Chris Godwin. He's not going to have Mike Evans for a month. Yeah, no.
I agree that Baker probably needs a lot more around him, but John, I think the thing I struggle with that I always think about
Well,
is
I think that's the problem. If everything's pristine, I think a lot of people would like a lot of quarterbacks more than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, because you look at the offense, the talent on offense, and it's like people got mad at me in the chat because I was like, I think I'd take Kirk Cousins, and I'm like, it's not about the quarterback as much as it's about he would get the ball out to these guys so quick. We have so many playmakers on this team.
Yeah, but can I actually say Eagles fans overrate their talent to sometimes a ludicrous.
Yeah, but from a playmaker perspective, they do have good talent.
Well, they have two good receivers and a good running back.
And
a good tight end when he's healthy.
And a great offensive line.
And when they go down to Grant Calcaterra, no, it's not the same. And when they go down to Jahan Dotson, I don't give a crap that he was the 16th overall pick or whatever. It's not great. And when they go down to Fred Johnson, it's not great. And when they go down to Tyler Steen, it's not great. So, there's been significant attrition this year. Now, luckily for the Eagles, it hasn't been long term. So at some point, you hope to have all these guys back. You hope to have everybody together and for a longer period of time, and you see what happens. And I find it very hard to believe they're a top 10 offense right now, for those who don't know. They're top 10 right now. They're 9th in the NFL, I believe, right now.
Yeah, but are they reaching expectations?
Of course not. Well, the expectations are ridiculous.
Forget our expectations. Forget mine. Forget everybody in the chat. Forget yours. Are they reaching Jeffrey Lurie's expectations? I don't think they are even close.
No. Well, no, not now, but yeah, not now.
There you go. I mean, I think this is what we're talking about. He wants a passing
part
offense.
of those expectations, including from Jeffrey Lurie, are unrealistic.
That's fair.
I always say it. Before the season, I heard this is going to be an historic offense. This is going to be one of the best offenses of all time. No, it's not. I said that from day one. No, it's not.
John, the only thing I think you were wrong about this summer was the impact of Saquon.
I don't even think I was wrong about that.
You weren't. I mean, but the way you framed it is that it almost made people think you were, but your stat projections were pretty on
off the charts, ahead of everybody else's.
Yeah. I mean, I was saying how much I loved it, and your stat projections for him were higher than mine were.
Yeah. My point on Saquon was he will his part in the passing game will be wildly overrated.
Which
and
you've
I've
been
been
right about.
100% correct on that.
Yeah, and then Bryce Hawk, maybe you were maybe.
Oh, I was way off on Bryce Hawk. That I'll take credit for. But with Saquon, a little bit. I had 16 to 1700, and he's on pace for like 2,000. So he's having a very good season. And in a weird way, that does not help. By the way, in a weird way,
yeah,
it does not help because now you have the crutch of leaning on him when things aren't going well, like the Giants game, and he can have that type of impact. Whereas it's almost better for this team to have like a 1,200-yard back in a weird way instead of having what Saquon's giving you right now.
Explain why.
Because it's not a crutch, and you have to rely more on the passing game, which is where you want to be.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
maybe the
you
coaching
want to
staff,
have an
maybe the
effective
coaching
running.
staff, I mean, you talk about the coaching staff wants to win games. Maybe they're looking and like, yeah, I know the owner doesn't want us to be a ground and pound team, but shit, man, we might win some football games by doing that.
Yeah, that they're not going to win the games they want to win by doing that. Now, can they win some regular season? Yeah. Well, they did. I mean, they won a lot of regular season games doing that in 2021 at the, after the poor start. And, I can't even tell you how many 200 I'll look it up in the break. How many 200-yard rushing games they've had in the Nick Sirianni era. It's
A lot.
ridiculous.
A lot.
It's ridiculous. They
Oh,
do
they
this all.
can't do that anymore, John. You know why? Because A.J. Brown is going to have a problem with it after the game.
He's never had a problem with it. He
Just-
didn't have a problem with it. Well, he wasn't here in 21. He didn't have a problem with it in 2022. He's getting his 1,500
Yeah,
yards.
he's getting his yards.
That's what I said. It's almost counterintuitive, but you want the Miles Sanders level of production. Versus, if Saquon goes for 1,700 yards, yeah, I know people aren't going to get, but it's probably not a good thing. It's probably not a good thing.
Oh, it'll be a good thing for all the jerseys we'll give away to the great people here on JAKIB Sports. Appreciate all of you guys in the chat. Hit that like button. We got to get those likes higher on Birds 365, everybody. I am making a plea to the Birds 365 community. We need to get the likes up. So when you check in on the show, if you like John and myself, hit that like button, and we appreciate that very much. Brian Fleming checks in. John, Orlovsky had a stat yesterday. Through these first 6 games, Jalen has thrown over the middle just 4 times. That's Hurts, not scheme play calling. Agree or disagree, John, and what's your response?
What was that?
Stats not thrown over the middle. Hurts, that's Hurts, not
4
scheme
times?
play.
I don't think that's correct. But he doesn't like to throw over the middle. I mean, that's evident. He's not comfortable with it. A lot of traffic in there. Ball gets tipped. That's where you get interceptions. He's trying to be hyper conscious about not turning the football over now. There's good and bad to that. If you're not taking chances, it's a very delicate balance. But yeah, you could tell because he gets asked about it and he gets very surly. And it's been a problem his entire career. But yeah, not 4 and the 6. That's not true, but I
I'd
don't
be
know if it
curious to
was.
watch that Orlovsky breakdown, Brian. I don't know where. I'm sure it was on.
I can get his charts at some point, but Next Gen Stats has him up. But he doesn't like to throw the football. That's true. The fact that he doesn't like to throw the football.
And he is sensitive about it, right? He doesn't like to be asked about it.
Yes, because it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's not that little. Yeah, I think it was, but yeah, it ain't good. It ain't good.
Maybe
He barely threw the football over the middle field against. I think there was one target, and it depends. Again, it depends. Are you talking in between the hash marks? Maybe it is 4. That's a really
that's fine. Yeah, that's a little too middle. But I don't know. Dad says it too. I don't know if it's out there. I didn't see
that's what I'm saying. Is he talking between the hash? That again, it's these statistics are so wonky.
Yeah.
But what is true? What is undoubtedly true is he does not like to throw the football over the middle of the field. Now, again, if you're talking about the hash marks, are all right, but
yeah, I'm not talking about the hat. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's
I'm looking. Yeah, I'm looking at his Green Bay chart. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 were interceptions.
Yeah, which is part of the problem. I mean, right when he goes over the middle,
that's 4 right there, and that's between the hashes. So I don't know what Dan's talking about with that number, but and week 2 there's 1 in the hashes. There's 2, so that's 6. Yeah, I don't. And that's from Next Gen Stats. Week 3,
Is
there's
Jalen the type of player, John,
2.
at the pressers to stop giving you the time of day? Like if you were to ask him that,
No, no, not at all. He
because I
will
feel I don't know. I'm not
sometimes
into
even
that.
behind the scenes, he'll give you a better answer. He doesn't want to give it in front of the camera, but
Right.
no, he's fine. He doesn't that I don't think I've ever had a contentious moment with Jalen Hurts. People think I have, but he's just like sometimes he wants like the famous I didn't write it, somewhat famous. Um that people thought that it wasn't contentious at all. Just asking a question, and he was talking to me directly. Because I had asked the previous question. He was wondering why Wink Martindale came up, and it's because Tim McManus wrote the
Right.
story, and I found it interesting that he contacted Wink because I think it's fucking interesting. That's another F bomb. He was like, "Why are we talking about Wink Martindale?" Basically. And I said, "Well, there's a story written," and they said, "Who wrote that?" And I said, "I didn't write it," because it's not my. He asked, "Why was it written?" And I'm like, I can't get in Tim's head. So I said I didn't write it, but essentially I found it interesting that he contacted Wink Martindale. And people thought that was content. It wasn't even remotely contentious. You can talk to anybody who was there.
Yeah, no, it didn't sound contentious, honestly. It was just a funny moment, and I think everybody here loved it. It was great.
Yeah. So I have never had a contentious moment with Jalen in my life, but there are things he does not want to talk about, and he makes that evident. And one of them is that he doesn't like to throw the football over the middle of the field, which, again, it was 0 this week between the hashes, but he threw it 14 times. So I got, I'll do it again real quick. Week 1 was 4, and this is, again, very limited between the hashes. Week 2 was 2, so that's 6. Week 3 was 3, so that's 9. Week 4, 2, which is 11. Week 5, they didn't play. Week 6 was 0. And so it might have been from week something. I don't know. I don't know what then, but the last 2 weeks it's
I
been
think
0.
is it completions
Maybe completions. Maybe.
or completions? That might be what it is. I think that's what
Maybe.
Dad said. That's what it is. But no, yeah. I mean, look, I think it is a problem. Let's real quick get through these super chats because I do want to get into this Bengals game. Obviously, coming up here. Appreciate everybody checking in. A couple guys just checking in who are our usuals checking in late. You missed a great first hour, everybody. So I would encourage everybody to go back and listen if they missed that in the open. Brian checks in. William Levis, Tim Boyle, or Hurts. I'm going William. Brian, you're in rare form, my guy. I cannot agree.
Well, Levis, come on, dude.
Terry
Come
Hayes
on.
checks in. My man, Terry. Terry says, bought some merch last night. Terry, I got your order, my man. Thank you so much for the support and buying some JAKIB merch. I liked your picks. Good picks last night. I fulfilled the order, and they should be coming to you soon. My score prediction is 35-30. Birds first win in Cincinnati. Still saying Q is going to get his first NFL pick from Burrow. It's going to be a lot of first on Sunday. Go Birds. I like it, Terry. I like it. I don't know if you're going to be right, but I like this. I like the comment.
I think they
John?
might have to win a 35-30 game.
Uh-oh.
Um,
That doesn't
yeah,
make
but
me feel good.
like I say, all games have personalities. And this one I think it's going to be a lot different than last week. There's going to be some points scored. Um, and I think the Eagles are capable of scoring points. I mean, the Fred Johnson thing concerns me. Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah.
Last week it wasn't that much of an issue because they never threw the ball. But I think if they're forced to drop back 30 times, typical NFL game, I think it might be an issue.
Yeah, we'll
Saw it
see.
last night. And David Quesenberry is one of the best backup left tackles, I would say, in the NFL.
That's his name. I knew it was a crazy name, Quesenberry. That was it. I was thinking of
Yeah.
it, John. I was trying
He's
to
a
think.
veteran guy. He knows how to play, and he's played a lot, and he's not bad. And that's pretty much as good as it gets as a backup left tackle in this league. And yeah, it wasn't good. Wasn't bad. He's I'm telling you, he's solid. But yeah, left tackles are hard to find.
Let's get to our commercial break. Coming up, we're going to talk about this Eagles-Bengals game. We're going to talk about the injuries on the offensive line. Could be out 2 offensive linemen this week. I'll get the update from John on that. And we will break down this Bengals game. One of our great viewers, John, who has been here since the start of Birds 365 4 years ago. My girl, SMD. So if you guys are in the chat, you guys got to respect SMD. She is the queen of the chat, you could call her. She's been here the longest out of everybody. She says, I want to know what this defense will look like versus a real quarterback. Well, you're about to find out, SMD. You are about to find out because
80% completion up or
yeah. Well, he's
over
70
under.
on the year. I think 77 to 80 is where he's going to be.
Oh, that's going to be a fun Monday if that happens.
Well, listen, it'll come down to the offense. Can they keep up with it in a shootout?
When they play off coverage and they give up easy completions, I know how well that goes.
All right, let's get to our commercial break. SMD, thanks for the chat. Appreciate everybody in there. Hit that like button. We're having a better day today. We've been slacking on Birds 365 likes, so appreciate all of you guys. If you're watching, smash that like button. Does a lot to help the channel and help the show reach more Eagles fans because, I don't know, maybe I'm biased. I think every Eagle fan should be listening to Birds 365. We have the most knowledgeable Eagles fans in the world watching this show, and we thank all of you guys for doing it. Let's get to our commercial break. Before I do that, I want to tell you guys about the great friends and great people at BetUS who we thank for sponsoring this 2-hour edition of Birds 365. Go check out BetUS. You can see I put the promo code up on the screen. It's YouTube 150 is your promo code, and that gives you 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third deposits, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. Sign up. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and they will even give you your own custom account manager. So big thanks to BetUS for sponsoring the show today. We'll be back in 3 minutes here on Birds 365. Smash that like button, everybody.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. Appreciate everybody here watching the live show. Appreciate anybody who is consuming this show after the fact. We appreciate all of our great viewers here on JAKIB. Hit that like button. Drop us a subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and we appreciate you being here. Johnny Mac, let's talk about this Eagles versus Bengals matchup. Birds are sitting at 4-2. Bengals are 3-4, but I got to give it to him a pretty good 3-4. Joe Burrow has really been finding his rhythm. We'll start with him because anytime you play the Bengals, that's going to be the main story, right? How do you slow down Joe Burrow? Just to give everybody the stats. Joe Burrow right now, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a 110 passer rating. He is playing pretty lights out football, completing over 70% of his passes. Johnny Mac, what's going to be the game plan for Vic Fangio in this thing coming into this game? Actually, we'll get there in a second. Let me just real quick get the injury update for the Eagles before I go there. Sorry to stop my train of thought there, but injury update, John. Do we expect both linemen, Becton, and we know Mailata is going to be out? Do we expect Becton to be out as well?
Yeah, I would bet on that. Really difficult to get through the concussion protocol. You saw when Lane Johnson, Lane was practicing before what game was that? Either when he was trying to get back from the protocol, he was practicing Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday and wasn't able to get through on Saturday. And we haven't seen hide nor hair of Mekhi Becton yet this week. So, yeah, very unlikely he's going to play and get through the protocol in that 1 week time frame. So, you're probably going to have Tyler Steen at right guard, Brett Johnson at left tackle. So that'll make things a little bit more difficult. Zach Baum, though, was back at practice. So that was a positive sign. Talked to him afterwards. He said he should be good to go. Wouldn't give me 100%, but he was a full practice participant. So unless something happens over the next couple of days, he should be starting at linebacker. So that's a positive. And Dallas Goedert, haven't seen him at all. So I would think he's out for another game. Probably rule him and Mekhi out today would be my best guess.
Good stuff, John. Any other key injuries in this game to watch for, especially also on the Bengals side?
Bengals, I think the biggest one is Orlando Brown, who's got a knee. He was limited Wednesday and Thursday, so he's really questionable. Same with Geno Stone, who's got a shin injury. He hasn't been playing well. He didn't practice on Wednesday, was back. Limited participant yesterday. Everybody else, Joe Burrow's on the injury report with his wrist, but he's full practice. Trey Hendrickson had a personal day on Wednesday and was back full practice. And then Chris Jenkins is the only other player on the injury report, and he was a full practice participant. So the two guys to watch are Orlando Brown and Geno Stone, and they really need Brown because they don't have a great offensive line with them. Without them, it gets pretty bad.
Got it. Good stuff there. So mostly healthy for the Eagles front. Obviously, besides those offensive linemen, you're missing Mailata, and we'll see if Bourne ends up going. I think he'll go. Right? You think he'll go?
Yes, I do think.
Yeah,
I do
agree.
think.
He was back there yesterday. So, John, let's get back into that Joe Burrow comment I made. How good of a quarterback he is. You're talking about one of the top QBs in the league. Anytime you go up against him, and boy, 14 touchdowns, 2 picks. Pretty good numbers for Joe here. John, what's the game plan to stop him? Because I don't think it's blitz. I don't think that's going to be the case. But, what do you expect Vic to do here to try and get Joe off his mark? Or, John, does it just come down to that defensive front has to play well and get home?
Yeah, speed them up. That's all you can do. Best way with any good quarterback is pressure straight up the middle. That makes him the most uncomfortable. So big Jalen Carter day. He needs to play well. And they got to speed him up. It's as simple as that. Not necessarily sack him. You'd like sacks, but as long as you make him throw before he wants to, that'll be the key to me to the whole game, really. If he's comfortable, look out. Again, you're going to have an 80% completion day, tremendously accurate, great playmakers. For the first time, people are talking about, do they have better receivers than the Eagles? Maybe. And certainly if you add in Yosebas, I'd rather have him than what the Eagles have, and maybe that's just because they use him a little bit and the Eagles don't use their third receiver. Now the Eagles have a much better running back, no question about it. They don't have a great running game. Chase Brown, Sydney's twin, don't think you're seeing double if they have their helmets off. They look exactly alike as twin brothers. Zach Moss is their other running back, not something that's going to scare you. And then tight end, they got, they use a lot of 12 and 13 because remember, Zach Taylor he's another guy that comes from the Sean McVay tree. So they play a similar style to the Rams. So you got to see it a little bit last night if you're watching the game. And there's going to be motion and all that kind of stuff and eye candy and play action. And they got a quarterback who can run it.
We'll see what ends up happening there with the Birds. It's going to be a tough matchup, John, for that secondary this week. You just mentioned the wide receivers are maybe the first team or one of the few teams you could face in this league that can say that their receivers are comparable, as good, potentially better, depending on who you talk to. Than ours. Quignon's got a tall task. Darius Slay is a tall task. So safeties have a tall task. What do you expect from them this week?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tall task. A lot of positives from that group, especially recently with Cooper being inserted at the slot position. But yeah, I wouldn't get too depressed if it's not Quinyon Mitchell's best game or it's not Cooper DeJean's best game. I mean, yeah, if people have listened this week, I'm really a big Jamar Chase fan, number one, but T. Higgins is dominant wide receiver too. As I mentioned, Andre Yosebas making some plays as well. They're good, and they got a quarterback who's accurate. And when you combine those two, it's good to not allow them to get any ability to run routes and get downfield. And the only way you can do that is to get pressure. So, and you kind of, if the pass rush isn't getting home, it's going to be a long afternoon for the Eagles defense.
No doubt about it, John. Let's go back over to that offensive side of the ball. Talking about the way the Eagles should attack this Bengals defense. We've talked about Trey Hendrickson, who's obviously an elite player. Yesterday on the show, you mentioned the linebacker. I think is it Logan Wilson?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good
He's a
player.
good player.
Good player.
They got a couple good players on defense, but it's really Trey Hendrickson who sticks out like a sore thumb when you talk about how good of a player he is. And I know Logan's good as well. They struggle a little bit in the secondary. What's the expectation for how Kellen and Jalen are going to attack this defense?
Well, I do think the clear weakness is the secondary.
Yeah.
They're not good. They don't have good corners. And, we were talking to AJ yesterday and they're young and they play hard. And that's on camera. Yeah, they got a huge advantage. Remember, the Bengals receivers don't play the Eagles receivers, so it really doesn't matter which one they have done. They're playing the opposition defense, obviously. So the Bengals secondary is not equipped to deal with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. I mean, they just are not equipped. Their safeties stink. Geno Stone is hurt, and he's having a terrible season on top of it. There's no Jesse Bates there anymore, and the corners might be even worse. So, this is not the time to die on your run the ball hill. This is the time to get Jalen Hurts some confidence and get him going.
Right.
And score 30 points.
You think anything will be factored into, though? I mean, the one thing I like about the run game this week is that it gives you a better chance to control the clock potentially and keep the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands. Now, where I think you're right is that becomes really easy if you get a lead and get some touchdowns early in the game. But do you think they will rely on that just for that reason, not to be this ground and pound team, but to?
No, one thing I know about the Eagles is they have a lot of hubris, and they don't think that way, and they don't think they should. They don't think they have to manage games. Like a lot of teams have to be honest with themselves and feel like they have to shorten the game and do all. They do not believe that. They never believe that. They think they always have the talent advantage. They probably do in this game. I'm not sure it's always true. I'm not sure it's always wise. In fact, I'm sure it's not. But that's their belief. And they do not waver from it. Do not waver.
All right, John. Let's play a little game here on over-unders, all right? I know you don't like to do that, but I'm doing it. Jalen Hurts, 265 passing yards.
I'm going to go over.
This is set by me, by the way. These are not courtesy of BetUS or any other platform. These are the big Z odds.
I'm going to go over. There's going to be an overcorrection after last week, and the receivers are getting the football.
All right.
Against a terrible secondary. I'm going over.
265. Johnny Mack going over. All right. Well, let me ask you this then, coming off of that. Over or under 1.5 turnovers for the quarterback?
I'm going over because they're going to throw the football all over the place.
John gave us the shot of life with going over on the
I'm going to go one interception and one strip sack from Trey Hendrickson.
I can't push back on that, but we'll see. I don't think they're going to have. I think Jalen's going to keep it clean, but you're right. I mean, if you're talking about all those passing yards, maybe potentially those turnovers,
tip ball, that type of thing. It might not even be that bad, Strip sack. Fred Johnson gets beat one time. Yeah, I'm going over.
I like it. AJ Brown over under 100 yards.
Over. I'm going over all.
Got to go over if you went over on the passing yards for the quarterback. AJ's probably going to make up 50% of them like he normally does.
AJ goes over 100 in his sleep if they're throwing the ball. So
all right, now here we go. This is the best. This is the best over under I will give you, and this applies to all of JAKIB Nation. Saquon Barkley over or under 125 yards from scrimmage.
I'm going under. For that reason, I think it's the overcorrection towards the passing game this week. But the beauty of Saquon is home run hitter. I say it all the time. You know,
Yeah.
it can be all you get 170-yard run and you're there.
I'm going over on Saquon, John. I think I'm giving away another jersey. Actually, I think I'm giving away jerseys in each of the next 4 weeks.
Oh
for the
boy,
Philadelphia
I
Eagles.
hope not, because he might be dead by that point.
No. 4 straight jerseys, not including last week. You're going to run all over the Bengals. You're going to run all over the Jags. You're going to run all over the Cowboys, and you're going to run all over the Commanders. Saquon's going to be feeling it, and so is JAKIB Nation.
Does anybody,
5
you know,
straight
it's
jerseys.
interesting. I asked Zach Bond. Zach Bond was mad at me because I asked him, you know, you already passed your career high in reps and defensive snaps, because he never played that much in New Orleans. And he was like, "You worried about me?" I'm like, "No, I'm just you're in game 6 and you've already played more than you've ever played before." I think it was a valid question.
Is that what he said to you? You worried about me?
Yeah.
That's great.
But I'm like, you've never played this much before. Now he's a young guy. It doesn't affect him. I get what he was saying, but I don't think he get what I was saying. But in the case of Saquon, I mean, at some point you gotta pay attention to the touches.
I mean, he's on, right now he's on pace for just over 300.
I mean, I think people got to lighten up a bit. And he's got, like, Zach has got no tread off the tire because he hasn't played, and he's a very young guy. And like I said, they don't want that put in their head. So I get why I was a little bit like taken aback. But with Saquon, I think you got to be a little bit more careful, don't you? People?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't you want him for the playoffs?
Yeah, no, you do. I mean, look, I was having this conversation yesterday on the National Football Show with Dan Silio, and we were talking about this because he's like, "Boy, you better be careful with your man Saquon." And I'm like, "I don't know. I think I feel all right about it." And he read off to me. Now I know it's not the same player, and I don't think they should be compared, but he read off the carries by Derrick Henry in his career, dude. It's insane, John.
Derrick Henry,
350 plus carries though in a season. And this was coming off a knee, off the ankle or the knee injury, whatever he had. I mean, there is some insane carry numbers for Derrick Henry out there. And I'm like, I don't know, Saquon at 300. I think I feel all right about that. I mean, his most ever, I think, was it? I want to say it was like just over 250. I think it was.
Have you seen Derrick Henry?
I have. Yeah, I know they're not the same.
The guy spends
295. Saquon's had 295 in 22.
The guy spends $750,000 a year to maintain his body. Derrick Henry. That's
as he should, man. He is a beast.
He is a monster.
He's best running back in the league, in your opinion, right?
I don't know if he's the best running back, but I mean, physically, as far as physically impressive, you know, he's older now, 30. I don't know if he's at his height, you know, because he has that many touches. But certainly was the best running back in the league, certainly still performing at a very high level. And I think getting with Lamar only helps, because you're like, what do you do? And he's averaging, I don't know, 6.5 yards a carry. He's outrunning people somehow. That's the most impressive part. According to, the stopwatch, he's not fast, but yet he outruns everybody at 247 pounds. He's an amazing player. But is he the best running back? I think he's in a great situation. I don't think he's the best overall. But I mean, that's a healthy Christian McCaffrey, but he's not healthy. But it's hard to argue with 6.5 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns, 87-yard touchdown, where he's outrunning defensive backs who run 4.2 and 4.3, and he somehow is 4.57. I guess they don't want to tackle him. I don't know, but nobody's catching him. Pretty amazing player.
Yeah. Saquon's pretty good though too, man. I mean, 6.1 right now average. I know you point to the big plays, but they exist. 5
Well, yeah, I
touchdowns.
mean, that's part of it. I mean,
Yeah.
I Saquon's very good. I don't know why people think I don't like Saquon. He's very good. I
I don't
think
know.
people
That's what people are, always calling you out, Johnny Mac, for Saquon.
I mean, can you look in the mirror and at least admit he's not what you thought he was going to be as a receiver? Could you at least give me that?
I'll
Not you,
certainly
I'm
admit
talking
that.
about.
I will certainly admit that for sure.
As a runner, yeah, he's very good. He's very good. And he's in a great situation as well, which was the whole point of it, But I think from the Eagles' standpoint, they bought into that receiving bullshit too. And part of that's the quarterback, because you bring him. Why did Howie paid him? Because of his impact on the passing game. That's why he paid him. And he has no impact on the passing game. It's working out anyway. But yeah, that's why they like running backs, because of their impact on the passing game, potential impact.
Derrick Henry, man, 873 yards in 7 games.
Yeah. Well, it helps with Lamar back there. Don't underestimate.
That dude is just a monster, man. A monster.
Yeah.
Maybe I like him because I'm Bama, but shit, he's unbelievable.
He was a second-round pick because he
it's insane.
Because he ran because he ran whatever 4.56, 4.5, whatever the freaking ran. I don't know, but yeah, he seems to outrun people just fine on the field. Maybe start running those 40-yard dashes with pads. I don't know. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, maybe it will. We got a couple super chats we'll get to, John. But before we do that, any other key things that you're watching that are on your mind as you think about this game this weekend, Eagles versus Bengals in Cincinnati? What else is top of mind for you when you think about this football game? We might have hit it all.
By the way, 4.54. I lost my train of because I was looking for Derrick Henry. We ran a 4.54 coming out.
I do the same thing all the time. You get distracted.
So yeah. Anyway,
my question was anything else top of mind on this game as we prepare for the week 8 matchup this weekend? Anything that we missed?
I don't think we missed anything. Trey Hendrickson, big deal. Help. I would say if I'm giving advice to Kellen Moore, I'm sure he's listening. Don't assume Brett Johnson can be left alone. That would be my word of advice. Sometimes you gotta be, but I mean, there's got to be consistent level of help for Brett Johnson. And if that means, Jahan Dotson doesn't get the football anyway. So less Jahan Dotson, more Jack Stoll would be my advice.
I like it. Let's get to a couple super chats here before the end of the show. JAKIB Nation's been showing out today on a Football Friday. Thank you all. 149 likes on Birds 365. Can we push that up? Can we get close to 200 with over 400 watching right now on Birds 365? Smash that like button, everybody. We got to catch up to Big Sills. Big Sills heard us talk about the likes yesterday, John, and he was roasting us. He was like, they're crying about the likes and we're destroying them.
I've never cried about the likes.
Oh, he said you were. And then he ignited the Big Sills fan base to smash the like button to the tune of almost 400 yesterday.
I've never complained about the likes. I said you brought up the likes.
Oh, I did. Well, look, they do matter. In our world, they matter for sure. They help us grow for sure. So big thanks to everybody.
That's your my mentality is, I don't say stupid shit to say stupid shit. Now, a lot of people like that.
Dan, look, I mean, I think Dan says stupid shit. Dan doesn't always say stupid shit. Dan says things in very loud.
I'm not talking about Dan. People think I'm talking about Dan. Dan thinks I'm talking about Dan. I'm talking about the industry as a whole.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And by the way, I don't blame people because that's what gets them noticed. And it all correlates back to the fan base. If you didn't want that, they wouldn't do it. But they do it because that's what you want. So, hey, if you want stupid shit, I'm going to be off the air because I'm not going to say stupid shit to say stupid shit.
Well, that's why
Ever.
we love you, John.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I will say this. I mean, I know Dan is bombastic, but boy, he's been right about a lot of shit with this team in the last couple of years. He's been wrong a lot, but he's been right a lot about a lot of stuff with this.
Well, I
football
will
team.
put my record on being right about this team up against anybody's.
And John, you're right. You would be right to do that, my friend. You are right there, being correct about this team. Let's get to a couple super chats. Appreciate everybody. Up to 165. Good stuff, man. Thanks everybody for the likes. Suplex City says, "Sorry, OT, I lost a Cash App battle this morning." I don't know what that means. Suplex, a Cash App battle. John, do you think Flores has a chance to be a head coach again, and will Lesnar make a return? Hey, that's a Johnny Mac chat right there.
Yeah, with Flores, if anybody watched last night, maybe not. Ironically, both have the same problem. Brian has a lawsuit out against the NFL, so that I think hampers his ability. Plus, people don't want defensive coaches in general. Plus, the Tua situation in Miami, where he evidently belittled him on a daily basis, which is weird. So I think there's a lot of hurdles. I think he's a very good coordinator. Some people are good coordinators, not good head coaches. He might be in that category. Wouldn't surprise me if he got a second chance. But I never like the odds of any defensive guy because most teams go offense first. Now, there's some that like leadership, and there's plenty of defensive coaches, so there's always a chance, but there's a lot of complications to it. As far as Lesnar, same thing. There's he was named in the lawsuit against Vince McMahon. That's very civil lawsuit. That's very high profile right now. So that's keeping him away until that gets some kind of cleared up, and I don't think you're going to see him. But some troubling allegations. But I think what people don't understand about civil lawsuits is they're just allegations. It's not a statement of fact. And too many people think it's a statement of fact. So you can accuse anybody of anything. Doesn't mean it's necessarily true.
Yeah,
Could be true.
Might not help your chances to get employed by the people that you're suing, but And what's your response to the Lesnar part?
That's Lesnar. Yeah, he's involved in the Vince McMahon lawsuit.
Oh, got it. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Dante checks in. Dante, appreciate it, brother. He says Tyler Steen has looked really good when he's in there. Becton was handed the job. Seems like who has been better at right tackle? I guess he meant right guard.
Right guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Becton's been very good. The Eagles are very happy with Mackay because there's a lot of questions. He's a natural tackle if he could move inside. They're very happy with Mackay Becton. So he's the starter. There's no question. Tyler played very well when he was forced to come in. He's done a good job, ironically, as a pass blocker, because last year it was the opposite. He really struggled in his one start against Dallas as a pass blocker. And ironically, this year he's been better as a pass blocker than a run blocker. Last week, he was fine, but everybody was fine because the Giants were the Giants and they ran it 1,000 times and nobody had to do anything basically. So, but they're very happy with Mackay Becton. Very happy.
Good stuff there. Dante, appreciate the super chat, my friend. Miz checks in. Where is the AJ slant? Miz, that's a great question, my man.
Over the middle of the field, man. You can't throw it. He's had 4 completions. We've settled on that. He doesn't like throwing it over the middle of the field. And it is frustrating because you have the best slant receiver in football, or one of the best slant receivers in football.
AJ,
and he's got this massive body who, you could be very comfortable throwing a slant to AJ Brown. And yeah, they should do it more. And it's easy money, as they say. And Jalen Hurts just does not like throwing the football over the middle of the field. Blame it on the coaches, but for whatever reason, it's not liked. I'll put it that way.
No doubt about it. John, we're going to get our predictions in soon. I see your chat, Eduardo, looking for our predictions. They will come in just a couple of minutes at the end of the show. John, any final touches? I thought we had a great week of shows this week, John. I went from, ground and pound. I've been educated that that's not a viable solution. We talked about the quarterback a lot. We talked about the offense, the problems, the first quarter scoring. And here we are now on not the eve, but almost the eve of Week 8 matchup versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Any final thoughts on the week, Johnny Mac, before we put out our predictions?
I think they're finally going to score in the first quarter.
Wow.
I'm a eternal optimist. It was funny. Minnesota scored. It was touchdown, 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 touchdown. First 4 drives, each team. So it looked like it was going to be a shootout. Minnesota scored 65 points in the first quarter. 65 points. And the Eagles are the only team at 0 and are somehow 4-2. And if they then win this week, they'll have the same record, 5-2. Will they win this week? No, they will not win this week. They will not win this week. Till I see an Eagles win in Cincinnati, I say that flippantly. I mean, obviously they have nothing to do with the teams. They're barely there, but they've never won in Cincinnati. It's tough to imagine them winning in Cincinnati. And Joe Burrow is, it's almost like he's a great quarterback, but I think it's even emphasized more because of what they've seen the past 2 weeks. Like, I think they're going to get into that game and go, oh, shit.
Yeah, right. It's like when you go from hot to cold, right? You're in a hot tub and you jump in a pool. It feels cold. It's like one of those things. You play a trash quarterback 2 weeks in a row, and then you see an elite guy. Oh, boy.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be one of the classic Fangio scheme, 80% completion percentage games. I don't think Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are quite ready to make that leap up to dealing with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Hope I'm wrong. I think the Eagles will score some points, but I think they're going to lose the shootout. I think it's going to be, maybe not even a shootout, but I think it's going to be 31-26-ish game. So.
Wow. Our scores are very similar. Very similar. 31-26. Is that going to be your final score on Birds 365?
Yeah,
You reserve the right to change on.
I like a weird number. I probably won't remember. You'll have to remind me.
I got it written down. I'll remember it for you. John Mack.
Yeah, I'm going Bengals. Sorry, people.
Johnny Mack goes Bengals. For your boy Z, I'm going 31-28.
All right.
Philadelphia Eagles with a Jake Elliott field goal to win the game at the end. I think Jalen marches us down the field after a Burrow touchdown to tie the game, and we win with a Jake Elliott field goal. 31-28, Johnny Mack.
Yeah, Cincinnati's greatest gift to Philadelphia, Jake Elliott. They drafted him, and they wanted to keep Randy Bullock, the great Randy Bullock. Didn't want to throw Jake Elliott into the mix as a rookie, and the Eagles signed him off the Cincinnati practice squad. 61-yard field goal against the Giants, and the rest is history.
Great show today, everybody. Hit that like button. We're up to
great Jason Peters story, by the way, before I leave.
Good.
Jake, when he first got here, missed a couple kicks. And for anyone who's ever met Jason Peters, he's a very intimidating fellow. And he went up to Jake and said, no more misses. And that was it. No more misses.
Is that what he told Elliott?
Yes.
Elliott must have been sitting there like, okay.
No more. Exactly. No more misses.
Holy shit. Jason Peters is responsible for the legend that is Jake Elliott?
Yep. And a lot of people believe that.
Wow. Yes. I love that story. That's a great freaking story. By the way, Jason Peters, he got signed a couple of weeks ago, didn't he?
Yeah, Seattle. Yeah, I don't.
Unbelievable, man.
Still going. Well, there's a reason for that, but I won't tell that story on the air. So
SMD says he scared the shit out of Jake. You know it, SMD. If Jason Peters to little Jake Elliott, pretty good stuff. Great story there, Johnny Mac. John, great week of shows. Big shout out to JAKIB Nation and Birds 365. We've had great response to the show this week. We've had some love. We've had some hate. We've had a lot more hate from me than John this week, which doesn't normally happen, which was good to see. People did not like my take on AJ Brown, and you know what? I will stick to that because they're not going to run because they know that that's in the back of their minds. Give you that on the way out. Appreciate everybody, man. Hit that like button. Johnny Mac, great week of shows, brother. We will catch you on the pregame show on Sunday. All right, my man.
all right, thanks for listening, everybody.
All right, great stuff, everybody. Smash that like button on your way out. We came within 18 of 200. We didn't quite get there, but that's a good number for us. So thank you guys so much. And we will catch you on the pre- and post-game show on Sunday, and then coming up later today for Big Sills Nation, 2 to 6 p.m. today. I will be on there at 3:30. So looking forward to talking to you guys then. Thanks, everybody. Catch you on Sunday, if not on Big Sills.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.